honest at this point.
Yeah.
Hamad saying this podcast on Spotify or Speaker only or on Stitcher. It's on, I think, most platforms. Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, everything. Moving on, Dana White had some interesting things to say about boxing, how he can fix the boxing business model. And, in this age where we're hearing more and more about this PBC sale, it worries me a little bit that we're going to get this motherfucker involved in boxing. And here's his quote. It's going to be a long one, but it's a goodie. If you look at the way that it was, hold on, let me go do it so you guys can read along with me. If you look at the way that it was in the 80s and 90s, even in the early 2000s, you had a few guys that were making money. You had Floyd, you had Pacquiao, Oscar, maybe a couple other guys. But boxing as a whole, you're talking about a ton of fighters that weren't making big money and weren't in big fights. I think the sport could be so much more. If you look at what the UFC has built over the last 20 years in our events and how many events we're doing 42 events a year. Every time you go to one of our events, they're either sold out or they break record for ticket sales. This year, we're going to break the record for ticket sales ever in UFC history. There are more tickets being sold this year than ever before in the history of the company. Okay, Trump. We continue to put on these fights. People come and see them. They're on TV free, and they're on ESPN. Well, they're not free. They're on ESPN, and they're on ESPN Plus, and then pay-per-views are now on ESPN Plus, which everybody has. Everybody doesn't have ESPN. And we're still doing $1 million gates on these things without the Mayweathers and those type of fights. You can build a business like that with boxing. Build a real business. You just got to break it and rebuild it. You know what I love about Dana White? He rambled there for a good, 2 minutes? 3 minutes? Didn't say a fucking single thing. Not a single thing was stated there. Right? Like, what were his plans to fix boxing? To sell tickets? To give fighters more money? Because his fighters aren't making money compared to boxers. So
shouldn't he be doing that in his own fucking thing at the moment?
I don't get his point here. Like, his first point is, well, back in like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, only like the top guys were making money. No one else was making money. Okay, well, to the UFC, no one's really making money. The top guys are making pennies to the dollar for what you guys are making. And then his secondary point is, we do 42 events a year and we sell a lot of tickets. Like, that's his point. And I'm just like, cool. So does Eddie Hearn. So does Top Rank. So does PBC. They do a shit ton of events a year. Right? They do nearly 40 plus events a year each. Right?
I think,
and forget me if I'm wrong. Matchroom sold like a bunch of tickets recently, right? Uh-huh. Like, like in like Wembley and Cardiff and shit like that. Breaking records. All right, am I forgetting that?
No, you're right.
So I fail to see why
the master plan.
why this Trump 2.0 wannabe, okay, like how he has this, like you say, master plan for boxing. Oh my God, I'm so worried. I'm so worried about him being in charge of PBC or anything in boxing. Like, he shouldn't be in imagine him owning Top Rank. You thought Bob Arum was bad, guys. At least Bob Arum understands a coherent fucking argument at 89 years old and hopped off of weed, the good weed in Vegas too. He makes more sense than fucking Dana White, who's roided out. God, this is bad.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I'm all for another character to clown coming into the sport. He thinks. I mean, look. I know there's a lot of people respect like the UFC business model. I guess I know the fight. A lot of the time, people say fighters deserve more money, which is true. To see what happened to that dude at the weekend, he definitely deserves some money to take that shit. But yeah, I don't know. it's all going to be a long path, I think, before Endeavor maybe take over PBC. I think there's a lot more to it, and so it might be a little while before we get Dana White on our IFL interviews and behind the glove interviews and things like that. But it will be interesting to say the least. I definitely think there'll be some pettiness going around. I think Oscar will definitely have stuff to say. Regarding, I'm sure there'll be a clash of personalities on that one, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, the master plan, I didn't quite get it.
There was no plan.
Saying it's free, this, that, and the other, but it's all you have to pay for ESPN Plus. Then you have to pay for the pay-per-view, just like people that want to watch it over here. You pay your BT subscription every month, and then this weekend was a pay-per-view, which I know upset a lot of people. Apparently, BT kind of said there wouldn't be any pay-per-views via the UFC. We would get them as part of our subscription, and then this was the first one. And apparently, the only other one they're looking at is maybe Khabib, and obviously if Conor returns. But
obviously,
and slightly off topic, but not really boxing. But apparently, I don't know how true it is, but it sold less than 10,000 pay-per-view buys. Wow. But damn. I don't know how true that is. But
which is funny because in the US, I heard it did amazing, which is like good because it's the first ESPN Plus exclusive pay-per-view that's done well, honestly. Yeah. I think it did on track for like 400, 500,000 pay-per-view buys. So that's pretty good for an ESPN Plus exclusive pay-per-view. And you have to pay $5 for ESPN Plus and then another $60 for the pay-per-view.
So $55 basically.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, anyway, back to boxing.
Back to boxing, yes.
We're going to lose.